Greetings and salutations, Life and Poetry fam. Welcome back to Poetry 101 with Marcus T. This guy. In this episode, we're going to be talking about my 11 rules of poetry. But before we jump into that, guys, go ahead and do me a huge favor. Go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and turn on that notification bell so that you won't miss anything we drop here. Nothing. We're going to do some great things with Poetry 101 Marcus T. And you never know who's going to pop up and show their presence here, right? You never know. We might bring a special guest as we go through this series here. But as I said before, once you've done that, thank you so much for doing that stuff. But I'm excited about this series here because it's important to me to get this out there because it's something that I love. But as I said before, in this series here, we're going to be breaking down the basics of poetry. Excuse me. Wow. We're going to be breaking down the basics of poetry so that we can get the information out there for those who want to learn about poetry, those who want to dive into the world of poetry, those who are writing poems already, and those who just are interested in the subject matter. This has been on my heart for some time to do, so I wanted to do this in a class type setting, because we're learning, and not only for you guys but also for me, right? We're going to dive in. We're going to learn. We're all going to learn together. We're going to be just that family dynamic. We're going to learn together. That's what we do, right? So, in this episode, again, like I said, we're going to talk about my rules of poetry, right? And I have 11 rules. 11 rules for the beginner who wants to learn about poetry, who's starting to dip their toe into the world of poems or poetry, poems and poetry, and just, who are just excited about it altogether, right? You ready for it? I'm so excited, right? So, rule number 1. Read a lot of poetry, right? Read a lot of poetry. You want to get you want to immerse yourself into it to get a feel for what it is, a feel for the sound, and a feel for your own feelings when you read poems. When you're reading poetry, poetry is meant to evoke raw emotion in you. It makes you think. It paints that picture. It gives you that sense of something around. And you want to start off like, okay, look, this what this is. Okay, this is how this works here. Okay, this makes sense. Then you start to develop these questions that you want answered as you're reading through, right? Just as if you're learning to read and write, right? Repetitiveness goes a long way. You don't wake up one day and say, I'm gonna write this thesis statement, right? First, you have to learn to write. Just like when you learn to walk, you got to walk first, crawl, then walk. Same thing. So you read a lot of poetry, practice it. You practice hearing it, you practice reading it out loud, so on and so forth, right? So that's rule number 1. Read a lot of poetry, right? Rule number 2, right? Remember, these are my rules, right? Rule number 2, listen to live poetry, right? Now, first rule, read a lot, right? So you're reading it for your own understanding. So you're reading it in your tone, your voice, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to read it just like you're reading a regular book. You're going to read it right through. Right, because you don't know where the pause and the break is, because you aren't the writer. So you don't have that. You don't know where that writer's head is. So, but you're trying to get into that space. So as you're reading it, you're getting into that space, right? But once you get to that live section, you start to listen to it. So say, oh, okay. Now at the climax in this person's voice, his or her voice, I see this, so I'm supposed to go here, so on and so forth, right? So you want to immerse yourself in that poetry, immerse yourself into it, read a lot of it, and just go on and just full force in it, so on and so forth. Right. Oh, listen to live poetry, right? So again, you listen to it, you get a feel for how it's sounding. You get a feel for, and also when you're listening to live poetry, you tend to pick up on technique. When you're hearing a poet speak, you hear cadence in his or her voice. You hear how their diction is on certain words or certain phrases, or how they emphasize here, or climax here and decline here. And it adds to that painting that picture, it adds to painting that scene as you're working through that piece, right? So, rule number 3, start small, right? Start small. Don't wake up and say, I'm gonna write this long, in-depth poem. Start small. Practice makes perfect, right? Just baby steps. Take those baby steps, and that way you get a feel for it, how you're going, how your mind is moving through it, and it's letting your mind breathe as well. When you rush into things, if you take on too much, things get discombobulated in a sense. We don't want that, right? We want to take out our time, pace ourselves, because remember, we're still learning as we go through, right? Remember, these are the rules for beginners who are literally tapping into wanting to learn about, wanting to do, wanting to be, in the realm of poetry, in the realm of writing poems, spoken word pieces, so on and so forth. Start small, start somewhere, right? Rule number, was it 1, 2, 3, 4? Rule number 4. Don't obsess over your first line, right? Don't obsess over your first line. Don't think that first line got to be the where all, be all, know all, tell all. No, it's not necessary, because as you're moving through that poem, the way you're layering it out, right? It goes in depth. So if that first line misses, guess what? You got that second one to follow up. Okay, we're going to build on it as we go. We're going to build on it as we go. But it's all about learning, right? So as you're learning through, you know that, okay, this first line ain't meant to do this here, right? But let me put emphasis on this third line, or this third stanza, or this piece here as we're building that climax up, right? So don't obsess on it. It's all right if it don't hit. It's all right if it don't make sense. Because as you go through, you start to get the picture. The picture starts to get painted. It's just like when a painter first starts with a stroke, right? The first stroke on a canvas is once it gets to the end stroke, you see that the paint starts to like open up a little bit, like it starts to get stringy a little bit, if that makes sense. But you keep going over, you keep layering it, right? Once you layer it, you add that next coat on, boom, you get a solid base coat. So don't obsess with that first line. It's gonna be what it's gonna be, right? Again, whether hit or miss, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And this is, remember though, these are my rules. If it doesn't apply for you, it's fine, but don't obsess over it. It's not necessary, right? Rule 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have numbered these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rule number 5. Rule number 5. 5, 5, 5. Rule number 5. Embrace tools, right? We have tools in writing, such as the thesaurus, the dictionary, so on and so forth. Don't be afraid to say, okay, let me open this dictionary up to actually get a definition of this word here to see what it means, or the thesaurus to see if I can find a synonym for this word here. It comes in handy. Don't think that you have to have the Rolodex up here all the time, because sometimes you will draw blanks. I'm speaking from experience. This is raw and honesty here. I've written poems before, and I drew blanks with words, trying to find words that make sense. If I have a base word, I don't want that word because it doesn't fit in my thought process. It doesn't evoke anything. It's just there. It's a common word. I don't want that, but I don't have it here of, okay, how can I transform this to go somewhere else? So I will open my thesaurus app up. Or also, what's a blessing is that Word. If you're typing on Microsoft Word, you have the option of looking up words, right? Or finding synonyms or antonyms for words. It's built into the software. If you don't have a physical thesaurus, you can do it as well. Or just open it up on your phone and find the thesaurus or dictionary app. But use those tools. Trust me, they come in handy. Use every tool that you can find at your disposal when it comes to writing. Whether it be, again, the dictionary, the thesaurus. If you have language arts books from while you were in school, use those books. We had a book in school. It was called The Little Brown Handbook, and it broke down the structure of writing and a basis, at like the whole basic backbone of writing and structure, so on and so forth. The verb, content, all that stuff that was broken down in that book, and it helped to develop a foundation of writing for me that took me to the next level in my poetry. And I actually still have that book. I might not have a hard copy of the thesaurus on hand, but I still have that little brown book. Irony was, guys, the book wasn't even brown. It was white. It was a white book, but it's called The Little Brown Handbook. Check if you want that book. Go check it out. It's on. I know it's still on Amazon, and I believe it may be in not Busboys and Poets. It may be in Barnes and Nobles, or in most. It's common in most bookstores, but if not in the bookstore, go on Amazon and purchase that book. Trust me, it comes in handy, right? Rule number 6, right? Number 6. Enhance the poetic form with literary devices. You have devices such as imagery. What's the other thing? What's the other one called? Shoot. There's a few. I did a video on this before. But you want to pull that up though. The sense of adding poetic devices really enhances the work in a way that most people don't. I guess they don't. It doesn't. Uh, it's. I'm drawing a blank here. See, it's funny about the source. About the source, right? So you're what is it talking about? Come on, guys. I'm slipping. This is not my day. Literary devices or devices. I'm gonna look up some right quick. We're gonna talk about it. So just think about playing the music. And it's funny because I had this written down. Oh yeah. So okay. So boom, back. See, so we go back. Right. Irony. So I'm looking for irony. You got irony, imagery, similes, oxymorons, paradoxes, satire, so on and so forth. Right. Most commonly, about metaphors and similes, hyperboles, imagery, stuff like that. Even onomatopoeias. You want to enhance that work like that, especially with imagery. We can go into the rest of it, but imagery for me personally is one of the bigger things, because as I'm writing, I want you to see the picture as I'm going through it, and with each line, each stanza, each blueprint, the picture gets bigger and bolder, and it gets more enhanced, and you can see it come to life. Right, so for me, imagery is one of the bigger devices I use. I use a lot of metaphors too. A lot of metaphors in my writing. Sometimes they will miss you because if you don't get it, you ain't got it. You ain't got it. You just ain't got it sometimes, and that's fine. But as long as I'm painting that picture, as long as at the end of the day you see the picture in full frame, in full HD, 4K, Ultra HD vision, whatever you want to look at it in, right? But that's that, right? So yeah, so we're gonna enhance with the literary devices, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rule number 7. Try telling a story with your poem, right? Like I said, that storytelling factor goes a long way because it gives the reader something to hold on to, right? It gives them something to follow. Allow those readers to follow as you're going along. So as you're painting the picture, you're telling that story, right? So Susie started at the bakery, right? As you're going through, what is she doing at the bakery? How is she feeling? How is she operating? What is she baking? Who's the customer? What is satisfaction? How does she close up the shop? I'm gonna paint that story as I go down that spiral, right? As I'm going down that spiral, I'm painting the story of Susie at the bakery from the day she went in to the day she closed up, right? So next rule is that number 8. What number 8, right? Yeah, 8. What's it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, we told a story with rule number 7, right? Rule number 8: express big ideas. This one here for some people is tricky because if you're starting small, you don't want the big idea to be just there because you got that boom, you got to factor all this stuff in here. But as you go through your writing and you want to learn how to express things, what I mean by big ideas is the emphasis factor, right? Express that big reveal, right? Throw emphasis on, boom. So, okay, Susie at the bakery, right? Boom. Susie just got a customer that came in, and this customer at the bakery ordered 16 dozen cookies, right? Susie's never done that before. Bigger ideas. Okay, so now Susie got to figure out how this is going to come to play. How she's going to do all this here. So now we're going to paint the picture here, and we're going to pull out. Okay, we're going to pull out how she's dealing with this here, what she's got to put in, the verse she's got to put in for. That's the big idea for Susie, right? That's when we talk about Susie and them. But don't be afraid to express it. Don't be afraid to go and say, you know what? This is where I want to go with this here. This is what you're going to get here. And this is what I feel like getting across to you. I don't need this. My work may be short and small, sweet, put together. But the idea, huge and grand, like, just bow, just the big wow factor when it comes to it. So that was 8. Rule number 9. Paint with words. Back to the imagery factor. As my words, as you're reading the words, you're starting to see the drops of paint. You're starting to see the picture come together. So, for example, this is an example I use all the time. The sky is green and the grass is blue, right? Now you're thinking about it. You can see, okay, now my sky green, my grass is blue. Now you know it's something you've never seen before, but now I'm seeing it, all right? So now I'm painting this picture as we're going through. The sky is green, the grass is blue. Raindrops fell. Raindrops are falling from the trees above. Grass is growing under my feet. now you're seeing it, right? I see the rain falling from the trees above, not from the sky, from the trees above, grass growing under my feet, and the wind whistles between my toes, right? Makes no sense, right? But you're starting to see it. Now you put this, you get this in your head, right? So I got the grass. Grass is blue. I see blue grass. I see the green sky. Green sky. Rain, water fall from the trees. I'm set. Rain came because it's actually raining right now. So rain is falling from the trees, so on and so forth, and boom, bang, bang, right? Bow. So you start painting words. Rule number 10: familiarize yourself with different forms or types of poetry. As we move through this series here, we're going to talk about the different types and forms of poetry. But you have free form or free verse poems, poems with rhyme schemes, sonnets, ballads, bonnets. I think it's called a bonnet. I don't think it's called a bonnet. Yeah. But either way, you got all these here haiku poems, so on and so forth. You have English style poems, Japanese style poems. It's so much with that, And when you break down the context of poetry, I think there are traditionally 50 different types of poems out, commonly 7 to 15 or something like that. As the years go on, poems they evolve so much, and people start to pull from different ways, and some of the other ones get lost with, and as the time goes on. But familiarize with those different types of poems, because then you begin to get the foundation of poetry, and you start to develop your style of writing, how you want to write, what poetry style or form fits you best. Whether you can pull off a haiku poem, because you can break down those syllables in your head, as we'll dive into that too soon. Or you can break down a rhyme scheme poem if you're a rapper or hip or so on and so forth. You're a writer, songstress. You learn to break those things down like that. If you want to just roll spoken word off your tongue, that's fine, right? Get familiar with it. Immerse yourself in that there, just as you immerse yourself in the culture. Immerse yourself in that type of writing. If you're a novelist, immerse yourself in different novels, different books. Cartoonists, immerse yourself in that illustration, so on and so forth. Cooks, painters, builders, immerse yourself in understanding and the learning aspect of it all. Last rule number 11. This is one of the most important ones for me as a poet. Most poets have these meetup spots here. You find spaces such as, okay, so it's called Bus Boys and Poets, which is an amazing restaurant and place with also you can do spoken word certain days of the week. Where I am here in the DMV, I'm quite sure there are others around the country, but I'm here on the DMV on the East Coast here. But rule number 11, right? Connect with other poets. Connect with them. Get into the community where you can bounce ideas off each other. And you got a question, boom, right? This person may answer. If not, they can see the person who does know it. You get advice from the people. You pour into them as they pour into you. That's one of the most important rules for me when becoming a poet, when dealing with poetry. So you can learn with them, you can learn together, and you can become that. You have that family and that social circle of people who are familiar with, know how to, and will embrace you, in a way that most people may not know how to, because they don't know poetry. They may write, but they may not be on this side of writing. They may be on the novel side, or they're storytellers. Most storytellers are in poetry as well. Remember, you got to paint that story with your words. But you want to connect with poets. You build that community up, and you can learn a lot from other writers, other poets. Trust me. I've connected with a few over the years, and I've learned so much about different techniques, different styles, and we all have our own niche, right? Our own isms of how we write and where we pour into our writing. Majority of the writers that I've connected with over the years, of the poets, we all have this one thing in common. With each piece of work we do, we put a piece of ourselves in it. No matter what the pieces that we're commissioning, it's a piece of us in each work we do. In each piece of work we put out, you see a piece of us in there. And it's so subtle that if you don't know it, you'll never see it. But yeah, guys. So those are my 11 rules. I know I went on. I should have just went through boom, 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 but I didn't want to. I never do. But those are my 11 rules of poetry, guys. Hold on to those there. If you want to become a writer, don't hold on to those things. As you go on, you can add to the list here. Your list maybe 12 rules. You may have 20 rules of how you want to write. You may go to another poet, and they might have different rules here. But remember, these are my rules. That's what I followed. And these are what I followed when I started writing, when I dove into it, as people poured into me. This is how I built that blueprint for me to write. And as I pour into others, I added to this list here. So I didn't always have 11. And sometimes I have more, but I was able to pull and add to what I felt as I learned, as I adapted, as I grew. So that way, when I train other writers, or when I'm talking to other writers, or I'm teaching other writers or poets, okay, guys, this is the foundation here. Hold on to this here. This can help you go. This will help you go a long way, and it's done so far. I've seen many great writers come up the ranks over the years, and I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the success that they've come about, and just how they've immersed themselves into their work, into their writing, and just begin to perfect their craft. It's amazing. It's amazing, guys. For Life in Poetry. Thank you so much for tuning in to Poetry 101 with Poetry 101 Marcus C. This guy. I'm your boy Marcus D. Right? But again, stay tuned to this series here, guys. We're going to do some great stuff here. And again, as we go through here, the last episode, guys, sneak peek in the book number 2. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss it, guys. Thank you so much again. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell. Become a member of the Life Poetry family, team, and brand. And just share. And as always, keep writing, keep being, and keep doing you. That's going to switch us every episode. I think I'm going to end up switching that from time to time. But, and also know this here. Words without an audience is just a whisper. Guys, find your audience. Find your audience. Trust me. Life Poetry family, I love you guys so much. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, we out. Peace.